Howdy Heroes Heart, this is Kyle Fergusson, and today I get to sit down with an Uther, Wild Heart's Wearyday from Game 5 vs. Simplicity. Wearyday, thank you for joining me, and thank you for picking Uther, the best support hero there is.
Thanks for having me, Kyle.
I'm really excited to hear your thoughts on solo heals Uther. As this draft got going, this was just a first pick Uther with no information provided other than the fact that everyone was trying to play some band games. Was this originally going to be a solo heal, or was that option always in the air for double support?
Yeah, it's always up in the air. I think for most of our games, we go into the draft very flexible. So we tend to pick heroes that can fill multiple slots in our draft. So it's definitely not preset.
And then the casters were all theorizing that the Diablo was picked early, and very scandalous because Justin picked a tank because they didn't want that Medivh power with the Diablo behind it.
Yeah, so I think solo hero Uther, all to be said, is not too common these days, but it can definitely work, and I'm pretty comfortable in the heroes. So Justin wants to play Diablo, I'm all for it.
How much of the hero's heal ability, its throughput, is based on that armor? Do you feel like you try to heal in advance of a hitting in the first place, or is it more of a nice bonus after you've delivered a bigger heal, like on your Holy Light?
So the armor is definitely a critical part of playing Uther effectively. Compared to most other healers, his healing throughput is not the highest, right? So usually you really want to be able to heal when your DPS is trading, so you can up trade.
That makes sense. And then that armor would supply you with more effective health. I don't think you guys have any shielding here that I guess Falstad might go into a shielding talent. I may have missed that.
Yeah, so Uther's healing output is not very high, as I mentioned. His cooldowns are also very long. So usually the decision-making process is you try to kind of stagger your cooldowns a little bit so that if you foresee kind of like a little bit of trading or a skirmish in the next few seconds, you're going to try to have the cooldown available. And then if there's downtime, of course, you can like top somebody off.
Well, that makes sense. So it's always an effort in thinking ahead with Uther, not only just getting that armor out, but actually where you're going to be in range and what your healing throughput is going to be. Now, with level 1, you picked up, and let's go ahead and grab that talent here, the Hammer of the Lightbringer, which with a hammer, oh geez, now we have multiple hammers in this game. We're talking about your hammer. Isn't that a lot of poke for this kind of talent? Would your auto attacks not flow normally? Why pick up Hammer of the Lightbringer here?
Yeah, so this is probably one of my, I guess, personal comfort builds. Most of the time, I would tech into E-build. So that's the Hammer at 1 and Hammer at 4 combo. I think all of the permutations are viable for Uther. Between 1 and 4, it's really kind of like what you want to go with, right? For me, the level 1, there's two aspects to it. One, it gives you some in-lane sustain, as well as when you're kind of doing mercs, you can keep your mana bar pretty healthy if you're managing your heals and who's taking damage effectively. And once your quest is completed, the CDR portion on your E is also pretty good to have.
Cooldown reduction if you're in a prolonged fight, you get more stuns behind that. And you mentioned this is kind of your go-to build with Pursuit of Justice. Now this increases Uther's movement speed. So I guess, is this more of an escape tool or just an all-around great thing to have Zoomy Uther?
Yeah, so with this ability online, you can really play a little bit more aggressive than you otherwise are able to get away with, right? You can kind of be like the last guy out if we're disengaging, so I can stun somebody and then using the movement speed just like run away. Or if we're kind of engaging, I can help stun somebody and walk around them and just start body blocking with my increased movement speed.
One of the things I'm noticing is that you're not using a lot of Holy Radiance, as we normally see it in kind of a solo Storm League sort of situation. Is that mana cost for delivery just too high?
So if you look at our comp and how we played this early game portion of this game, I'm usually laning with my Hanzo and my Diablo, right? I don't really want to use my Q on Diablo because it doesn't really matter, even though it's more healing. Like, he has so much health. Even though I'm using my more expensive spell, it doesn't actually do anything for him. So I'm trying to use my Q on my Hanzo a little bit more, and then use my W to mostly give the armor proc.
Now that right there looked like an example of stunning something only for the movement speed. Like Mei she's not gonna die there, but you had to get around back to Diablo, so you gave her yourself a little speed boost off the Mei.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to play, and I also see you kind of weaving in and out of bushes. Is that something that you do a lot on Uther, that people should be a little more sneaky about their Uther play?
Yeah, definitely. I think this doesn't necessarily also limit to Uther. I think a lot of heroes can benefit if you're not really like doing anything active, right? If I'm not trying to auto attack to get my CDR or stuff like that. Just dropping vision, limit the amount of information the enemy team has, and being like a ward. If somebody's like face checking a bush that I happen to be in, I can give them a stun, and then maybe just ends around and we can just punish that.
That's fair. So you're operating to increase the sight on your very squishy teams, makeup of like Falstad and Hanzo, and make sure they don't face check anything bad that Uther would otherwise survive from, and with your level 4 talent, speed away from.
Exactly.
Level 7, you grabbed up Cleanse, or Hand of Protection, the unique version. It obviously a great pickup. We see it all the time. Is there any reason, maybe in this game, maybe in another game, why you would pick one of the other 7s?
So I would go Cleanse probably most of the time. Guardians is the only other viable pick, which is if you're healing somebody that CC'd, they gain 50 armor. That can be good. I think these days there's a lot of like armor shred, and most heroes kind of have one way or another to deal with armor or to get their own armor. So I feel like just being able to move your hero and cast your spells is more advantageous, and it also helps, provide more playmaking potential. If, say, Justin's looking for a charge, I don't think this happened this game, but hypothetically, if he was trying to charge a hammer, I can pre-cleanse him so that he doesn't get interrupted in mid-charge.
Now, you don't really have an enemy team diving you, so Divine Storm may have been a little out of style compared to things like enemy Genjis and Zeratul, but why Divine Shield here?
Yeah, so probably this game, we picked Uther early, right? If we had a choice, in theory, Uther's probably not great into the enemy team or for my team because he doesn't heal a lot for our team, but between the two picks of Divine Shield and Divine Storm, there's not really targets for me to storm in one shot. Yeah, I can probably do that on the Ural or on the Mei, but they're probably not gonna die in one shot, and they can just escape if they're not super overextended.
It's amazing how much wiggling you're having to do to maintain the range with your busy team, flying all over the place, fighting over a wall, and that movement speed is really showing just how effective it is. A big change I'm noting in organized play over that Storm League Uther is that you're not being targeted at all. Is that just because the enemy team knows that Ghost Uther comes out and is a problem to deal with, so let's not even bother until we've killed something else?
So I think this is I guess how the comps are formed. We're kind of mostly front to back comps, with the exception of them having Medivh summoning portals. That's kind of an X factor there, but otherwise, Hammer being their main DPS, right? So I'm not really in Hammer range most of the time, and if Ural jumps on me, I can always just stun her and run her. So I'm not in too much danger this game.
So better to keep that mana high rather than relying on possibly the enemy team wrongfully killing you at the right time and you sustain them through a bigger battle on the other side.
Yeah, I would say if I'm not in this position and I don't get one-shotted randomly, I'm probably not in too much danger this game.
The poke that could have been received by you would have definitely outclassed healing from Uther. And here's another cool example of just using that speed, stunning something that isn't really being interacted with at the moment. We're not going to kill Urel, but that ability to reposition yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
We've gotten level 13 online. You grabbed up Well Met when used against heroes. Hammer of Justice reduces the target's movement speed and damage dealt by 25% for 3 seconds. So how does this kind of work into your philosophy of the movement speed and the way you're using the Hammer of Justice in this game?
There's kind of some additional synergy with the level 1 cooldown reduction, right? But in general, Well Met is a pretty good talent to have, even if I'm going Q build at 1 and 4. Just having the movement speed debuff and the damage reduction helps peel whoever is diving our team a little bit more. The other talent that I would occasionally, not very often, tech into is the Q talent, which once you heal using your Q, you can heal additional amounts through auto attacking. There's not too much stuff to auto attack, and I think it's not super poke heavy this game, so I'm just defaulting to my E talent.
That's fair. As this game goes on, what's kind of the team thoughts right now? You know, clearly you guys are trying to get a boss. There's a Medivh hovering above you. Are you positioning forward to catch a team coming in, or how would Uther interact with a portal being set up right then at the boss?
So I think we had a bit of a bad skirmish at the bot lane there. We lost 2 heroes, but we still had enough to be able to do our own friendly boss. What we were thinking about there was mostly just avoiding ley lines so we don't get our boss stolen, but otherwise we saw most of their team in other lanes, so we weren't too concerned about an incoming portal.
As we get deeper into the game, the death timers get longer, things become more intense, more scary. How do you know what you're gonna divine shield without that kind of old school Maelstrom Kerrigan, Dragon Blade Genji?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in this game, so in general, you always want to be thinking about how your team wants to fight and how the enemy wants to fight, right? Both teams don't have that type of hero that wants to get in there, so it's kind of like who is more in danger. And you see me there kind of using the shield to help disengage. Unreverted Hanzo got rooted afterwards, and I didn't have a cooldown for him. That was kind of unlucky, but otherwise, probably in this game we're just kind of using D-Shield reactively. If, let's say, Diablo was AA build, potentially an offensive D-Shield could have been in more use, but he's W build, so unless we're D-Shield him when he's breathing, there's usually not too much like proactive opportunities here.
Seems like this is kind of the go-to Diablo build now too, though, that the auto attack talent got reined in.
Right.
Level 16, you got Benediction, which it's hard to compete with anything on this, but would you ever, in a very particular situation, pick Beacon of Light or Tears Deliverance?
I would say for these type of games, not really. I've tested the W talent when it was changed. It felt okay in the few times I've used it, but I think Benediction is just a really powerful ability, and most of the time, if you're able to empower your stun and get 2 stuns, that's very strong for anybody caught out of position.
Now that would not stack the Well Met. You would not get up to 50% damage reduction, correct?
That's a good question, actually. I'm not actually sure on that. I feel like it might actually stack. But the more important part, I think, using that ability is using your 1 and not overlapping your 2Es.
Oh, that's fair. So stun juggling, making sure you're not stunning Diablo's already stunned target, as well as making sure you don't ruin your own stun duration by going too quickly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, that was a fascinating Divine Shield there, because shielding a mech diva doesn't seem like a value return, but Baby Diva pops out, is probably 100% dead in that situation.
Exactly. So this is kind of what we talked about before, right? We don't really have a proactive D-Shield target, so I'm just trying to help out whoever's in trouble. So we were kind of posturing in front of their mid-keep as 4. Zerg was a little bit of trouble. I gave the cleanse, and then they followed up with the Ice Wall into secondary engage there. I'm pretty sure without the D-Shield, he would have popped out of the mech, and then I would have the D-Shield anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I just gave the D-Shield early, and we're just like trying to get out of it.
That makes perfect sense. When you're in an ice block like that, what's your plan? How are you attempting to recover from that situation? Are you calling to your team to maybe zone for you on the other side? Uther doesn't really have a reposition tool outside of that hammer speed of 25%.
Yeah, so I think if it's not obvious, like what is the play is, I might try to communicate what my intent is, or if I need help from somebody. But otherwise, usually we're just trying to look for opportunities while that stasis is in effect.
And is this you kind of getting stuck on the other side of the wall, or you just simply do not want to be on top of what the enemy team has created with the hammer and the sort of stun CC of Mei and Yrel?
So I think in that circumstance, we took kind of like a pseudo 4v5 while Buzz was channeling the objective, because we didn't really want them to do the boss, right? I actually don't have my major cooldown, so if I was just standing behind them, I wouldn't be doing anything. Somehow we got to pick 4v5, but my intention there was I just wanted to walk around and see if I can get some vision or provide some value otherwise. I did stun him at Eve there, so it might have potentially been lucky where he wasn't able to protect the Mei, who got one-shotted by our Diablo Hanzo.
Here at the end, you grabbed up a level 20 talent. Let's actually rewind real quick so we can take a look at those talents. Is Bulwark of Light what you would have done anyway, or is this I'm on the way to the core, let's pop a button for fun kind of thing?
Yeah, so for me, I think the D-Shield 20 upgrade has a lot of potential, and there's a lot of playmaking and counter playmaking potential in it. Probably, ironically, this game, if I had to pick a real level 20, I would have just picked the Redemption talent, just because neither team has big wombos, and we're not really like full committing or diving like that. So as you can see, like my early D shields were kind of just low value, but we're just trying to disengage, right? So we don't really want to clump, and we don't clump organically because Falstaff's kind of playing to the side, Diva's doing her own thing, and we're just kind of pushing us like 2 or 3 here and there.
Is there ever reason to go Divine Protection?
Is that the armor talent?
Yeah, increase armor to 50 and its duration by 0.5.
Yeah, I see players take that here and there. I personally don't think that talent is good enough to be picked. I think if you don't like the D-Shield upgrade, just the Redemption by default has always been really strong in the meta.
It's wild that this game looked as scrappy and as even to the last moment as it did when not only did they have Medivh absorbing all that damage, but you got out healed on your Uther by 36,000. And yet there wasn't really a feeling that the enemy poke with the hammer and the Medivh was wearing you down all the time.
Yeah, so I think part of it is us trading well. One aspect that isn't usually noted is Justin loves the Globe talent at 1, so that reduces a lot of the healing burden from me. I can just throw him a W here and there when he's trading so that he takes less damage, but otherwise I'm not really responsible for keeping him healthy. He can do that with just getting globes or pressing W a lot. I'm just trying to keep my Hanzo and my Falstad topped off.
Oh, that's fascinating. And then that works into why the Qs were only targeting the Hanzo Falstad where they'd actually be impactful, and Diablo occasionally got a random W here and there.
Exactly. Like we talked about earlier, how you see like his chunky HP bar here, right? If I just Q him, it's probably like 5 to 10% of his HP. It's really not meaningful.
Any other little secrets that you think Uthers or hopeful Uthers out there would like to know about the character?
So the armor aspect we kind of mentioned, using cleanse, using benediction. I think maybe another aspect is just, and this can be applied to not just Uther, but also some other heroes in general. Like kind of going into the game, you want to think about how your composition wants to play the game and how the enemy wants to engage or counteract your engages, right? And depending on those, how you position in fights can vary pretty differently. And that also depends on which phase of the game you're in. For example, if you're facing a Johanna early game, you can kind of just step into her and just auto attack her. Most likely you're not going to be in too much danger, right? But as you progress, after 10, after 20, you might have to stand a bit further back just so you're able to cleanse the blessed shield if that's incoming and you don't want to get hit by like the secondary stun. So these are all things to think about, like how you want to position in team fights and what ability usages and how you want to use those as those kind of progress throughout the game.
That's great advice. You took these melee and hammer talents, and it would be very easy for someone to say, well, I should be literally next to Diablo all the time, but you showcased in this game how staying back won you the game and allowed you to have the cleanses and the divine shields and even the stuns eventually as you kind of worked your way around the back, but still safe at a hammer range.
Yeah, so definitely my job is not really to auto attack the Mei next to my Diablo, right? I'm trying to stay here near my Hanzo. If there's a hero jumping on him, I'm trying to stun him so he doesn't get CC'd, and we're just trying to fight the same heroes and just peel my backline a little bit more.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the rundown. Good luck to you in the rest of the tournament. It's awesome seeing y'all's drafts. I love getting to see some Uther even in the solo support. I mean, especially in the solo support because he's just so fun to play. Everyone watching, be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell here at Heroes Hearth for more Learn to Play videos coming up. And I'll see you very soon.